All right, so welcome everyone to the Ross Alumni Tech and Innovation Association conference call. Today we have a speaker, Derek Martin, who has over 20 years of experience leading marketing operations and consulting teams with companies like American Express, MetLife, and Laureate. He specializes in building customer-centric engagement solutions, award-winning marketing technology stacks, and operations. Derek has also led digital transformation projects enabling advanced solutions in RPA and AI. At American Express, Derek helped to build their homegrown servicing CRM and Relationship Care transformation for 7,000 agents in 24 countries. Derek is Agile certified, a Michigan Ross MBA, and VP of Communications for the New York Ross Alumni Club. Derek will give us a presentation for about 20 minutes on optimizing your marketing stack, which will be followed by a Q&A and lively discussion. We're recording the call, and we will provide access to the recording through our LinkedIn and Facebook groups. Derek, without further ado.
Thank you, Ron. And gosh, I gotta say, I'm amazed at all of the interest in this topic. Usually when I say marketing stack, eyes glaze over and folks turn to other more exciting political topics. So really glad to have you folks on board, and something that I know that I struggle with every day. And before we even go into the first page, I wanna say that there's no right answer in this. It's constantly evolving, it's constantly changing. And based on what your legacy systems are, what your business objectives are, what your budget, your scale, there's going to be a stack that's right for you. And my stack may not be appropriate for you. So this isn't a comparative. And even though there are vast differences in industries and in company maturity models, et cetera, the tips and approaches that I'm going to share with you are really generic in nature and can be applied individually in your own custom shops to get a better handle on your marketing stack and get a better outcome, overall return on investment. So thanks for the introduction, Ron. Certainly excited to get going. Let's see, get the page. There we go. All right. Sure. Just two items, the awards mentioned. I won a Stack Master, which clearly is not something I'll mention in a bar. It doesn't get me any credit or free beers, as well as a global expansion from Marketo, but also certified in Salesforce and some of those other pieces. Let's start by just defining what this thing is. People throw around the word stack and have different meanings, just like they throw around the word CRM and have different meanings. So just to get us all on the same level set, a marketing technology stack is really a grouping of technologies used to conduct and improve your marketing activities day to day. This Martech automates processes and the data flows necessary to improve your efficiencies and overall increase your ability to engage with your customers. The stack includes a ton of stuff based on what you're using, but a typical stack will include things like your content management system, your website, your blog, any advertising technology around display, SEM, retargeting, ad tracking, and attribution. It includes the specific channels you use to outreach to your customers and engage with them, including social, email, webinar, SMS, call centers, forums, etc. It includes the reporting and analytics at dashboards, etc. It includes the CRM that tracks and shares customer data, and the search engine optimization pieces that a lot of companies will be bolting on to get better performance there, as well as the underlying data orchestration and architecture. That's a lot, right? Just each one of those has its own silo, its own team. They have their own language. So how can you integrate or create a structure that allows each of these pieces to work in a cohesive manner and really enable the data sets that are critical and core to this overall effort? You know, your customer, your leads, how do you track those and manage those? So it's important for a number of reasons, including the fact that most companies today spend at least 30% of their total marketing budget on their marketing stack. And that's growing, according to Gartner, from up to 22% in 2017. More than just money, though. The stack is important because it ends up being a competitive advantage for those who use it effectively, and it ends up being an Achilles heel for those who don't. And maybe the easiest way to describe this, done poorly, you get siloed data, processes, and functions. The web guys can't talk to the social guys who don't even know who the email guys are or gals. You've got incomplete view of customer as these different pockets of activity and information silo in their structures. You end up having to build all kinds of complex and time-consuming workarounds. There's security and compliance issues, especially with GDPR in the California that came out. It ends up being super frustrating and super expensive on something that you thought was going to be a Ferrari, right? You're all excited, you spend all this money and end up even more complexity in siloed organization. Contrast that side to a well-executed marketing stack. Done well, you've got operational efficiency, speed, and scale. That scale is actually one of the most important things. Being able to outreach and engage a large scale of customers across multiple channels and not have to have people to do it, that's actually the hardest part and why you need all these platforms. It also it can reduce your operating costs done well. It gives you a 360 degree of the customer, allows you to personalize your content and engagement. More important than ever, it allows you to connect in with cutting edge technologies, channels, etc. And finally, to get the efficiency from your paid and unpaid media that you're looking for. So at the end of the day, it's a competitive advantage and a maximum ROI play. I'm going to keep going, given we only have a couple, we have about 20 minutes and then we'll go into QA. If somebody feels really like they need to capture something, just write it down and we can jump back to it. I geek out on this stuff all the time and I love it. So we will get to your questions. So it's important, but why is it so hard? There's a number of reasons here that make this a constantly moving target. First thing is, as we mentioned, there's no one size that fits all. My stack may not be appropriate for your stack, even though we're in the same company. There's all kinds of industry specifics, B2B versus B2C. So there's no, and you will find anybody who's really into the topic, there's even an awards group called the Stackies. And every year they give the best stack awards for different companies. So, you feel free to get into other players, but don't feel like IBM's is going to be yours. And it shouldn't be, because they have different scale, different objectives, etc. There's constant change in the marketplace. All these new technologies, tools, AI, ML, you need to be able to have a structure that plugs into those and allows you to take advantage of the solutions that make sense for your business, rather than being left behind on something that can create a competitive advantage for one of your competitors. Often there's misalignment between the skills and capabilities within the organization and what's required with your optimal stack. We constantly see people buy really fat technology, great stuff, and then they can't hire the people to run it. And what's worse with that is they end up outsourcing to agencies who aren't much better at it, and it creates an even further schism on the competitive advantage that you'd rather keep in your inside, but you're outsourcing to your agency. Even further, redundancies, interoperability limitations, and data gaps exist. This stuff wasn't built in a laboratory. You have acquisitions and legacy and people who need a tool because they need it, even though it doesn't fit with anything else, and they need whole new technology to track and manage and report. This is not a democracy, right? So one of the bigger challenges is just integrating with the legacy stuff and addressing I need this tool because. Finally, and one of the biggest themes of this topic is the data orchestration and architecture. It's often an afterthought. People buy the stuff and say, how do I fit it in afterwards? When they may not have the tools or could have set it up in a different way, or maybe they don't get the functionality that they thought they would because the data sets and the integrations aren't available. Ugh, right? So this is hard and it's constantly moving. You're never done. At the same time, there are some approaches that you can take to really get your handle on it and be thoughtful and deliberate about that 30% that you're spending on it and the opportunity to engage customers better than your competitors. Four keys that I approach, and each one requires real diligence. First is just get a better understanding of what your stack is. Very few people have an inventory of all their different pieces. Did you know you probably have 3 different reporting tools? Did you know you probably have 2 survey items, 2 email structures, and a few other things? I would probably, if you had a show of hands in this call, 2/3 of you would raise your hand to that. So the next piece to understanding your stack and your data flows is matching that with your current and future business needs. We're going to use a structure called a maturity curve for this, and we'll get into it later, but really understanding where you are today and where you need to be is a big part of your stack. A lot of people get the shiny-eyed syndrome of new tool, cool stuff, I need the tech, when in fact they're not ready for it, or they don't have the scale for it, or it doesn't integrate with their backends. And how do you tell your CMO that one more social tracking tool is not going to move the needle on what you're really trying to do? So that's a big challenge for companies, and how you kind of do that is I'll have a couple of displays to help you. We'll talk about integrating your platforms and data, one of the biggest Achilles heels or issues in terms of management and why it's so important. And then finally, that ongoing management and improvement, you're never done concept. All right, moving through. Here, let's go back. This is an eye chart. It's meant to be an eye chart. You're going to start looking, and it's kind of small on purpose, but where's my system? Oh, do they have HubSpot in here, right? This is a generic one. It has multiple maturity level platforms. While I might use HubSpot today, Marketo might be better for my marketing automation later on. Maybe HubSpot will, at a certain scale, won't satisfy. So this is just meant more to show you the stack structure and the content, as well as some of the names and brands that you might see there. In this step of understanding your stack, we talked about inventorying your current systems, recognizing duplicates and conflicts, and really just kind of this stage, you're not making any judgments, you're just looking at them. Second part, and don't under-invest in this stage. The second part is to map your data flows. A great place to start is on a lead. If you're a lead or acquisition-based company, and many are, track how your lead is identified, what appends and hygiene is applied so that you're deduped, etc., and then how it actually gets into your CRM, when it gets into your CRM, and when it's available back to drive triggered and automated marketing messages. If that's 5 minutes, it's too long. If it's 2 hours or 2 days, you're in trouble, right? And that's just one data flow. Imagine all the other pieces that come out of this. So this can take some time, but it's appropriate to get started. Understanding the headcount you're going to need to support your functions. Sometimes you're overinvested, sometimes you're underinvested. Just kind of look at that. And then as well as some security challenges, compliance challenges, and any pain points or bottlenecks. This first stage is no judgment. If you come in looking for skeletons in a manner that the judgment exists, you won't find them. People hide them really well, and I won't give up my Tableau for your click or whatever else. So this is a no judgment zone, and really just trying to understand it. And you may find that you're overinvested in areas, and this is a big savings. Great. After this stage, the next one is really to match your stack with maturity. I'm introducing here a concept of a maturity curve, where you have a very basic or ad hoc structure up front. You go into opportunistic, systemic, and predictive. I have a whole nother piece on 14 different curves for integrated marketing. I'm going to shift to that right now. This is the Martech stack one specifically, but there are others in data management and skill management and et cetera. So, you can imagine as you go through this, you'll have different needs. At the beginning, even if you would love to be predictive, if you don't have the data behind it, if you have multiple CRMs and you can't integrate them effectively, you got to deal with that first. And that's okay, because otherwise you're building a complicated and heavy structure on a house of cards. So you really need to take deliberate steps throughout that. I'm going to hyperlink back into our page. And what you can see here is in our stack that we showed, the big generic full, predictive level stack, it grows over time. You're filling in pieces maybe that didn't exist in ad hoc. Some of the targeting and stuff. Your social's super simple. You don't have a lot of attribution, right? And then over time, you're getting deeper into these new pieces form, and higher pedigree and scale platforms replace lower scale platforms as your needs develop. And that's natural. So right sizing where you want to be is important. The other piece of this is, let's say you're a lead gen kind of organization. You live and die by the leads you have. You will have to necessarily match your stack's maturity with the key functions or activities that are important to your business. So if you're a lead gen folk, then all of the data structures around your lead identification and integrations, all your forms, the hygiene pieces, any appends, will all need to be pretty robust, even if your email structure is lower grade, which is fine because you may have a different email need set. So just because you're in level 2 for email doesn't mean you might not need level 3 for lead management, for example. I have a full blog on the different capability sets, the 14 and the maturity curves for each one. Check that out at your leisure. We're gonna move on. All right. This is a critical page in the slide, and I even added animation because I think it's so important. So bear with me on this. You have your generic. I took out the logos to avoid confusion, but you can see we have all these different pieces: content management, your website, your social, texting, any extra channels, your marketing automation, your data management layer, appends, etc., your CRM here. And that might look hierarchical and kind of like I could slide in a piece anytime, right? Oh, I was in level 1 and I didn't have this piece, but now I need it. I'm just going to slide it in. Fine. That may work with some of these, but it doesn't work with data. Data you have to start with up front. You have to continually be deliberate about it all the way through. And here's why. Data, architecture management, and reporting go across all of these. None of them are outside of that mandate. All of them require data as a core element, and it's almost like a raw input, and it's a overall valuable output of each one of these stages. Yes, you're converting online, but for all those you don't, you need the cookie information, the behavior information, what they hovered over, what they didn't do, how long they spent, all of that, right? For you to really drive the value out of it rather than having a receptive, passive experience. So for that data management piece, you're really looking at accessing and managing that data across these different streams and enabling your acceleration of processes. I mentioned the latency in lead management. Companies who can respond to somebody in new form within a minute get a 20% improvement in their overall conversion on that form. You got to reach out when the people ask for it. So that kind of stuff is critically important, as well as integrating your overall systems. Without this data management piece, and there are a ton of middleware providers like Workato, et cetera, which can help you with this, people really have these siloed structures that don't integrate. Even worse, a lot of salespeople sell their platforms promising that they integrate real well. Andrew, I think, just mentioned the Salesforce Marketing Cloud. Marketing Cloud is great, but their email is not native. And in fact, there are better API integrations from Eloqua or Marketo than within Salesforce itself. They may promise that you can access all your data points, but you can't. And building customized objects to do so gets you into a bind on future changes. So they've promised you a structure that's all fully native, and it's not. So you were sold a bill of goods and you thought you didn't need a special layer for data management. Maybe, more likely you do. And so you've been given expectations that there's this piece that's going to be taken care of. And in many cases, it's actually a gap. So there's a number of reasons why this is an important part and an under-invested part. Second piece, data architecture. Here you're really looking about your storage and retrieval, your security and compliance management, any data mining, enabling your ML, AI, and RPA in a format that allows to be looked at. I'm talking to a customer data management for telco company right now. They store all their customer data in individual customer records, wide file or wide column type structures, so that they can manage that on an individual basis. And they're managing the GDPR and other compliance elements at that structure. Now, if you didn't, then maybe you're not allowed to look at that data. Maybe all your customer information from Italy can't be looked at in the US, can't be done with in another location. So data architecture is actually really important. It's also important because you end up paying for data on all of your platforms, your Salesforce and other pieces. Every record you're paying for. You should only be really capturing, storing, and retrieving the data that you need. Otherwise, it's just a bigger cost at the back end, which you could have invested in cooler tools or better resources. Finally, you have their reporting and visualization. You ever gone into one team, you talk to their website, and they say, oh yeah, well, this is a customer, and here's the information, here's the conversion rate. And then you go to the email team, and they say, oh, well, here's the same customer, here's the conversion, here's here's the rate. Same customer, different tools, different reporting. How? That's because your reporting and visualization is siloed as well. You're looking at only a piece. And so you're making decisions based, what was that parable of 8 blind men that were in a cave and they didn't know what the elephant was? They all said it was a tree or leaves or different things, but they just had only a very siloed view of what this customer is because they're looking at their measures that were defined to make them look good. So all of these reasons, data is not an afterthought. It is a constant enabler or disabler that needs to be managed as a success factor. All right, we're running out of time. Love this stuff. Last piece, managing your stack, right? Korn Ferry recently surveyed CMOs. 7% suggested they were concerned with staying ahead and taking advantage of new digital tech. Another 22 admitted, though, they struggled managing their current technology. You're never done, and frankly, I think that those 27, while they were accurate, the 22 is understated. And those who didn't know, there may be a lot larger percentage of folks who just don't know what they don't know about it. This requires constant oversight. I really recommend, whether formal or informal, create a technology oversight committee for the marketing stack. Whether they have authority or they're just a sounding board, they're the one who's going to manage that inventory, talk about new data sets. If you want to bring in a new platform, they're the ones you're going to talk to about it. Why do you need this? Do we have another platform that does the same thing? How do we make sure that we work towards our useful lifespan of these different products and take items out that, is an 8-year-old CRM that doesn't integrate anymore just because you like it and all your folks are trained on it? Next piece is that data priority list. I'm, beating a dead horse on this one, so I'll just keep that in the forefront. Assigning the stack needs with your organizational skills, aligning. This is real important. Again, if you've ever seen a 19-year-old try to drive a Ferrari and not get out of second gear, a lot of times what you have is phenomenal tech and very few drivers who know how to actually get the best out of it. So not just getting tech that you think is cool and engineers can run, but your team can run. It may be better than, it may be better to get a more simple tool that your folks can run than something that's super wicked, but you can't hire, Python coders to make work. And then continuing to innovate and train. I remember in a CRM team in Laureate, for me, we couldn't hire Marketo players. So, and I wanted a really robust team that was cross-trained. So we started them in webinars, the most simple and arduous one. And we rotated them over time, had a training schedule. Over time, they picked up different sort of stations of things that they could do, including HTML, et cetera. Organically growing your team is a great option. It's a lot cheaper. Just be careful of once they've upskilled, they're much more marketable. and you got to upgrade their pay along with it. Otherwise, all you're doing is creating a farm for other companies to poach. Finally, continuing to innovate and improve. This just goes without saying. Marketing is never still. So with that, I am going to close and open it up for questions.
Thank you, Derek. Awesome. Questions?
I would like to say first, Derek, as an ex-business lead for Dynamics 365 and having sold the same concept as you're selling here, honestly, it's one of the most enlightening presentations that I've seen on a complex topic like the marketing stack. And in fact, I'm going to relay, if you share the presentation, I'm going to relay this to my chief marketing officer globally, because I think it's very relevant for us at this stage as a business-to-business company. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And again, the trick is to be honest, which isn't always easy, to be honest about your vulnerabilities and weaknesses. But, no one's good at this. So keep trying. Other questions?
Derek, what organizations do you recommend to provide training? And do they provide training in other stacks besides marketing? So for example, KPI management or applicant tracking systems and so on.
I tell you what, if you can get back to me on that one, the training piece is an interesting one. I worked a little bit with GA, General Assembly, and a couple others. You really have to create your own curriculum and progression, and they do have that. If you really want to get involved, you have enough volume to hire folks, you can create your own curriculum and even bring in specialty speakers, etc. The current sets are a little bit basic, but there are a few, code training and that kind of thing that get pretty good on the technical side, but not so much on the Jedi mind trick customer, type of management and ethics piece. So if you want, just ping me offline and we can talk further on this one. I don't have a great answer for you.
Derek, one of the things that I reflected on that we experienced was marketeers. You very rarely find the skill set to be great at thought leadership around the marketing technology stack in traditional marketing organizations. What we found was we had to step into that space because we weren't getting that kind of thought leadership from our IT function either. I'd be interested in your perspective on how you see organizations driving transformation in this. Is it led by marketing with support from the IT or technology? Is it led and delivered by marketing? Is it imposed? What are some different models, and is there a clearly winning model, or or even some pros and cons? I'd be interested in your perspective on the delivery of that change.
It's a great question. First of all, we can all, if we can all agree that digital transformation is about putting the customer at the center of the universe, all these tools and everything else is to really engage with them at that piece, then also the organization shifts towards different structures, whether it's a CMO, customer officer, revenue officer, whatever. Whoever's in charge of that customer relationship overall needs to be a critical role with it. It's not IT. I'm just going to say that. It's not IT. I love IT, but there's an element of customer lifetime value that needs to truly be understood here, and that's not their metric. I would also suggest that metric is very effective because marketing is looking at like ARPU, or really more like the cost of a new acquired customer, right? Not the retention value, et cetera. So there needs to be something to manage that overall. And I like the customer lifetime value to apply that with. I actually like people coming from service and training them up. They have the closest reverence for the customer and will do right by them despite the incredible tools that are available, right? It's somewhat of a, now that you have incredible, the military has all these exceptionally effective tools, but do we have the maturity to apply them? That's something that is be careful what you wish for in this structure, because you can get really good at it. You can get very personal. And whether that's good or not, whether you're driving the right behaviors, those are all big questions. The end of the day, though, I think marketing is the most accountable for creating revenue from the customer. And that's going to pay for all these platforms and the training. So marketing, CRO, that kind of person is going to be at the front and center. Thanks for the question, John.
Thank you.
Cisco, I can't hear you.
Oh, 1 second. You probably dialed in, Cisco, right? Yeah, go ahead.
Perfect.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So we're a B2B small company. We're rolling out our CRM and marketing automation tools. The question I have for you is we're thinking through our data architecture and how to balance between keeping all our data in the CRM and how much of that data is synced and brought into the marketing automation. And we're basically duplicating all this stuff back and forth, and it's becoming a quick nightmare on how to keep those two synced up and not duplicating records. Thoughts on, on how to accomplish that, or how we should think about it?
Well, you're asking the right questions, and a lot of people end up a year later wondering why their data is so slow and why their duplicates are tripping them up and why they have such big data usage costs. So you're asking the right questions, first of all, Cisco. I think the bigger challenge here is, it's a large effort, but you really need to look at each data piece and remind yourself why I need this. Be a little bit more aggressive about not keeping it. Like we all, I have to keep my t-shirts from 20 years ago because who knows, maybe I'm going to see the Grateful Dead again. No,
but
right?
You
really have to be a bit judicious about the data that you keep and when you need it, right? You may not need it you may only need to do a batch once a week rather than a constant available cycle. You may be able to use derived scores rather than the specific data elements that were used to create those scores, and you can keep them in a completely different set. Especially with B2B, you're dealing with a smaller number of data points typically than B2C anyway, so there should be some solutions around this. There are some tools also available that either will filter for you, will track for you your data usage, and then come back to you like a month later and give you a synopsis of the data sets that are highly used, the data sets that aren't, and some solutions for that. And then there's middleware and warehousing solutions for, I absolutely need it, but I only need it once a quarter or whatever else. So that opens up a whole new conversation. If you'd like, we can talk offline about it, but there are a few solution sets that might be easy to plug in right away and give you an assessment to start the conversation.
Awesome, I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Other questions?
I have a question for the group. We're looking at investing in social media, but we're a B2B. Wondering if anyone's had success in marketing social media engagement on a B2B setting, not on a B2C setting.
My best experience is LinkedIn, but it's how would I say, it's a mixed bag. I think that how do I say, it's not something like saying we're thinking about investing. It's either you go on it or you don't go on it, but it's not something to go half-hearted. So you really need to go with a clear strategy of what you want to achieve, how you're going to measure it, and with concepts like cost per acquisition of new customer, integrating this with your CRM, it has to be part and parcel of what you want to do. Therefore, if you're thinking that you're going to do a campaign and that's just going to start working, it's completely wrong. It's just the opposite. It's like, okay, I think that I need to improve my relationship with my customers. I need to have more touch points. I need to have a more reach and frequency with them. I need to find secure ways to actually engage with them. And then you go full on, you can buy the CRM or the premium or the sales edition. And then you start adding layers of complexity. You starting, for example, using ClearSlide. ClearSlide allows you, for example, to have a presentation, like a kind of like a website that is created bespoke for you, and where you add all the elements of the communication, and then you take it from there. So I mean, I think it's a good think that you touch base with them, there's two things that you can do. There's one is sales solution, there's one is a marketing solution. Okay. The marketing solution more towards advertising. So advertising on the platform. And there's another one, the sales solution is more around using it like a CRM type of base. Now, big thing is then you have to find a way to integrate that with your CRM existing database. So if you want to use, for example, Dynamics and Salesforce are normally well integrated, but more and more people are integrated that with an API from LinkedIn. So I think that, just check out, I don't know what your system, CRM systems, but it should be very tightly integrated.
But we need HubSpot.
Yeah, I'll add, I'll agree with everything Pablo said. Like, I think LinkedIn is extremely powerful for B2B. In addition, there's a whole other set of platforms you might want to look at. Companies like Capterra, G2, these are companies, or Software Advice. These are companies that they provide a platform where other companies can come and do benchmarking on different software. So you can sign up there, and whenever someone is looking at either your company or a company in your category, you could get a lead. So then you know that they're looking in purchasing the kind of software that you're offering.
Yep, perfect. Great, thanks, Jane.
Cisco, one thing I would add to that is there are so many layers within each one of these social media elements, and do some time to research how your target audience actually uses them. It's really worthwhile to ask, and in person, through surveys, however you want, do you use these tools? Even though if they're available to you or not, you may find that there's fatigue on the in-mails, for example. I'm guilty of that, right?
For sure.
So there are other structures. I found digital retargeting where you add a list of people who looked at your website or what have you, more targeted, higher cost, but certainly appropriate way to go. And you don't need to take the full package. So be thoughtful about this, and there's a lot of sort of piloting that goes on and some skepticism. It may not work. In fact, I think the success rate here, because it takes a lot of support, ongoing, content development and everything else, is be easily, thrilled by the opportunities that you see, be much more judicious about the opportunities you get.
Yep. Yeah. And part of our challenge is that this is our marketing department right there.
Yeah.
It's a one-man shop.
At the same time, Cisco,
didn't he go to Michigan?
No. That's part of the problem.
The last thing I would say with that, and I agree, with what Derek just said, is like, I think it's very important to know what is the role you want HPs to play in your marketing strategy. So, I mean, I wouldn't think LinkedIn cannot do all for you. You need to understand what's the role of events, what is the role of cold calling, what is the role. So I think that you need to, define a very well structured, like B2B strategy in which you have to start with like identifying like the prospective customers, then qualify the customers, then, go down the funnel and, some way find where LinkedIn plays a role.
Yep. So we're down that path. So we're well on our way. Exactly right. Thank you. Super. I appreciate it, guys. It was great.
CRM are you using? Cisco.
What was that?
Just put in HubSpot, right?
Yeah, and HubSpot. Right?
And we haven't integrated it, so we're in the middle of building our APIs, of connecting HubSpot to like everything else.
Yeah, we love HubSpot. We use HubSpot as well. I've been using it in the last few companies I've been working with, and we integrate it with a website. So if anyone downloads an article, then you get it as a lead if someone asks for a demo. So that works really well. You get it real time. But we're starting to consider whether we want to move up to Salesforce.com and the implications of doing that.
Right.
That's kind of where we're
Talk to me first, Ron.
All right, we'll do.
I've gone the other way. I've been in Salesforce and all the overhead that goes with that, and very excited to be in HubSpot because it's so light, right? I can make changes so quickly.
You went from a Hummer to a Jeep.
Yes.
So that's
Any
a
other
good
questions in the group? We're just running at the close to the hour.
That's okay. Well,
I'd like to encourage folks, if you want, connect with me on LinkedIn. I often post content just like this, and you know, always open and willing to answer questions. Again, this stuff, I don't know why I find it so interesting, but I do, and I love talking about it and like helping folks. So let me know and connect in and happy to help.
Awesome. Great job. Appreciate it.
Much appreciated.
Yes, so we are coming up here on the time, but any other thoughts or questions, or anyone want to raise any other discussion here before we conclude?
None? Good. Good time. Appreciate you guys' time.
Yeah. All right, Derek, thank you so much. Very insightful. And everyone, thanks for joining in. We'll be back in a couple of months. Hope to see you all and others. So encourage other alumni to join the group as we expand globally. So take care. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.
Cheers.
One quick one.
Yes.
Ron, one quick one. What is the next topic? Do you have already an idea in mind, or?
Well, actually, so we had a like a board meeting with the other co-president. We talked about different topics. There's, but are you asking because you have an idea for a topic?
Maybe.
Send it through. Send it over.
Okay.
Yeah, we're open. We're always open to new topics. You know, we want to have one of these every other month. So I'm not going to disclose yet the topic because we haven't yet solidified the next speaker, but it could be exciting. All right.
Okay, fantastic. Well, let me know. Okay.
Okay. All right.
And yes, can you send through the presentation Derek did, please? It would be great.
I'm going to attach it to our LinkedIn group and our Facebook.
Yeah, and the recording. Really, really interesting. Thank you very much.
Will do. Thanks a lot, everyone. Take care.
Thanks
Bye,
Take care, everybody.
Good evening.
See you in Michigan.
All right.